Today we're going to be talking about the converse to the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so our essential question is, how do the converses of the Pythagorean theorem help us? And so first let's review what Pythagorean theorem is. Last week we found out that Pythagorean theorem is a type of formula that is only used in right triangles. So if we have a right triangle just like this, we have our A and B, which are the legs. Right? And then C is always the hypotenuse, right? A and B are always the shortest lengths, which are the legs. And C is always the longest length, which is the hypotenuse. Okay. And together we can put them into this formula, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay. And so the converse that we're going to talk about is something that will help us find the lengths of the legs, because on Friday we talked about finding the length of a missing value for the hypotenuse, right? But today we're going to talk about how can we find the missing lengths of A or B just given the other two lengths. Okay, and so we're going to be using these two formulas that are called converses. Okay. So let's say I have the regular A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And I kind of talked about this to some of the classes, not all of them, but a few of them. We can rearrange this formula, and on Friday I showed some of the classes that we can actually solve for C like this, the square root of A squared plus B squared, right? This is a type of just manipulating the formula so that way it works to our advantage. Okay, so that's one of them. The other one would be like if we wanted to solve for A, we could just subtract B squared on both sides, and we would have A squared equals C squared minus B squared. This is one of the converses that we have. A squared is equal to C squared minus B squared. It's the same Pythagorean theorem formula, but it's just written differently, so that way if we need to find what A is, we can easily do that. Okay. We can take it a step further and say we want to take the square root, so that way we just get A and not just A squared. And so A would be the square root of C squared minus B squared, right? Okay. So overall, one of the converses, we can just write A squared is equal to C squared minus B squared. The next one, let's talk about if we want to get B by itself. And I know that A and B, it doesn't really matter which ones you have as the legs. So if you're just okay with A squared equals C squared minus B squared, that's okay with me, because that means that you can understand that A and B are both legs and it doesn't really matter which one you use. Okay. Let's say you still have you still want to find what B is, and you don't want to put it as A. And so we'll do the same thing. We'll subtract A squared, so that way B squared can be by itself. When I do that on both sides, I get, this cancels out, I get B squared equals C squared minus A squared, right? That is what B squared is. And if you wanted to find what exactly B is, to get rid of the square, we just take the square root of both sides, and B is equal to the square root of C squared, minus A squared, right? So if you want to keep it as B, because that's obviously what we're going to find, you can keep it like that, but the other converse of Pythagorean theorem is B squared is equal to C squared minus A squared. Okay. So it's basically you manipulate the formula so that way if you want to look for A squared, you can, and just plug all the numbers in. Or if you want to find what B squared is, you can change up the formula so that way you could just find C. Okay. So we're going to do a few questions together. Okay. We'll start with this one. The base of the triangle is 12 millimeters, so I'm going to put 12 right here at the base. And the hypotenuse is 13. Hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle, so I know this part right here is 13 millimeters. Use the Pythagorean theorem to find the height of the triangle. Then find the area of the triangle. Okay, so we're going to find the height, which is this right here, which is one of the legs. Right, I can call that A, this B, and this C. And we're also gonna find the area of the triangle. Okay. So I'm gonna use one of my converses. I'm gonna use specifically the converse A squared is equal to C squared minus B squared. Okay. So let's see. I labeled all my A, B, and C's. I'm going to put in all the stuff that I know. So I don't know A squared, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. C squared is 13 squared minus B squared, which is 12 squared. Okay, I'm going to get my calculator. See, calculator. And then I'm going to put 13 squared. That is 169. And then minus 12 squared. That's 144. A squared, once I simplify all that, is 25. The last thing I need to do is take the square root. And A squared, or just A, sorry, because once we take the square root and the squared, they cancel out. Remember, they're opposites of each other. A is equal to 5. Okay, so for the area, we know the area of a triangle is equal to 1/2 the base times the height. Base here is, let's see, B. That's just a coincidence that B was the bottom. It's not always going to be like that. The height is obviously the 5 that we found. So let's go ahead and put those into our area of our triangle. Area of the triangle is 1/2 12 times 5. So let's see. I believe that's 30, but let's make sure. So let's see. Yep. The area of the triangle is going to equal to 30. 30 millimeters squared, because area is squared. Okay. Let's look at this next one. It says find the perimeter of the triangle. Hint, there are 2 congruent triangles in the diagram. So we're looking for the entire perimeter right here. Okay, but we don't know this base right here. We can't say that it's the same as 25 because we don't really know that there are 25. So we're just going to use one triangle, just this one right here. And we got, if you see, just for this triangle, we do have an A, which is at 24. My B, my other leg, remember the 2 legs that form the 90-degree angle are A and B. We don't know what that is. And then C is 25. The hypotenuse is always across the 90-degree angle. Okay, so I'm going to use the converse. B squared equals C squared minus A squared. Right, because I want to know what B is, so I'm going to use that one. So let's go ahead and put our numbers in. I don't know what B squared is. C squared is 25 squared. Sorry, minus 24 squared. Let's see what that is. B squared, let's see what 25 squared is. If you have a calculator that lets you do 25 squared minus 24 squared all together, use it, please. You don't want to waste time if you don't have to. I'm going to subtract 225 minus 576 to get 49. So B squared is equal to 49. Hopefully by now we know that the square root of 49 is 7, which is what we're going to do next. Right, and so B is equal to 7. In this case, it's going to be 7 millimeters. Let's see. Since this entire thing is 7 millimeters, that means, and like here they have the same length, that means it's the same triangle, but just reflected, right? If we draw like a line right here, We just reflect it across that line. So, let's see. Over here is also 7. So the entire circle, let me erase some of this stuff so that way it makes more sense. We know this part is 7. We know this part is 7. 7 plus 7 is 14. So the entire thing is 14. Let's go ahead and find the perimeter. The perimeter is going to be 25 plus 25 plus 14, which is going to be these right here. Okay. So we should get 114. No, sorry, nope. 64. I don't know why I say 100. Perimeter is going to be 64 millimeters. Just millimeters because it is just the distance around the triangle. Let's do 2 more. Okay. Let's look at something, a real world situation. A ladder is needed to reach the window. How high is the window? So let's say you're a fireman and you have to rescue someone from a burning building. And you have to know how high you are going to go up. We have a ladder that's 50 feet, because it tells us right here. And you're 30 feet away from the building, right? So here we do have a triangle. A right triangle. Oh, let me write it the other way. Where A or B, let's just do B just because we've been used to the bottom being B. 30, A is, I don't know. And C is always across from the hypotenuse, or sorry, C is always across from the 90-degree angle, which is always the hypotenuse, which is 50 in this case. And I'm looking for A. So I'm going to use the converse A squared minus C squared. A squared equals C squared minus B squared. I'm going to go ahead and do an extra step and just take the square root of everything right now. And put A is equal to the square root of C squared. I can do this because I'm just moving the numbers, right? I'm not doing anything bad. I'm just doing something more that will help me you get my answer easier. Okay, so I'm going to take the square root of 50 squared minus 30 squared. And I should get 40. And that'll be 40 feet. The height is 40 feet. Okay. Let's do one more and then we will be done for the day. For notes. Let's do this one. A softball diamond has sides of 30 meters. Determine the distance a fielder must throw the ball from the second base to reach home base. So here we have the diamond 30 meters. Determine the distance a fielder must throw the ball from second base to reach home. So here, if you know your baseball, this is where you like hit the ball, right? You like the ball comes to you and it hits it, you hit it. Then you run to first, then second. It says determine the distance the fielder must must throw the ball from second base to home. So we want to get the ball's here. I want to get it down here. Okay. So we're looking at this triangle right here. If I go ahead and just draw it the way we are regularly find triangles, right triangles, we see that we can like rotate it this way, clockwise. And this part is going to be this part right here, which is 30. Okay. These do have lines here, so all of these are the same distance. So here we also have a length of 30. And hypotenuse, we don't know what that is. So here we're looking for the hypotenuse and not a leg. So we can use our regular a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You can also use the square root of a squared plus b squared equals c, because if you want to get rid of this square, you can take the square root of everything. Either or, Doesn't really matter. This one you do need the extra step though, so I'll do this one since that's the one we started with. So a squared, let's assign everything. Let's have that be b and this have a. Remember, they don't matter which one you assign because they're legs. As long as the legs are a and b, you're fine. We got 30 squared plus 30 squared equals c squared. Remember, if you have a calculator that lets you do 30 squared plus 30 squared all in one take, please do so. Right now I don't. So I'm going to do, that's 900 plus 900 equals c squared. And so we get, simplify that, we got 1800, nope, there we go. And then now we do have to take the square root because we don't want c squared, we want c. And so the square root of 1,800 is going to be a decimal. It is 42.4. I don't know what I put a 7. We'll see. So we are running 42.2 meters from second base to home base.